going to be sharing lessons from a project which the Jobs Fund supported. We're going to be looking at emerging farmers and what has worked in respect of incorporating emerging farmers into existing established value chains. We're also going to look at how, we roll out support and development that is much more inclusive and that leads to sustainable outcomes. This morning we are joined by participants that ranges from academia to sector specialists, consultants, government departments, DFIs, banking, business chamber, and I would like to encourage you to have a conversation with each other in the chat. As I said, we are going to mute your microphones during the presentation, but we invite you to post your questions during the presentation, and there will be a team who is going to try and answer your questions so that, we can keep things flowing. There will be some time at the end of the presentation for questions from yourselves. I also want to say to you that we will share the presentation. This will be shared after the webinar this morning. So my hope is that as you go with us on this journey this morning, that we inspire you and that we encourage you to see whether the success that Sernick has achieved, whether that is something that you would like to replicate and adopt in the work that you do. So I also need to say welcome to my own team, and I'm going to hand you over now to Lionel, and he's a senior manager within the Jobs Fund, and he will be hosting you for the rest of the webinar, and then you'll hear more from me at the end. But welcome, and yeah, let's get going. Over to you, Lionel.
Thank you very much, Najwa. A very warm welcome. Maybe under these conditions, a very hot welcome, as witnessed by the weather. Just before you fall in love with Sernick, let me just tell you a bit about Jobs Fund. We are a fund that was established by government, and there was 9 billion rands allocated to it, and it is in the form of a challenge fund. Our aim is to support job creation, and we expect these jobs to be sustainable. We also identify scalable, replicable, and sustainable job creation models. We work with implementing partners like Sernick in this instance, who act as intermediaries. Why we use this approach is because it allows us to share the risk and leverage our partners' networks. It allows us to leverage additional funding in the form of match funding, and it also gives us access to technical expertise. We play a complementary role in social protection and employment landscape. The Jobs Fund believe in practice knowledge and knowledge sharing, which is assisted by our rigorous monitoring, evaluation, reporting, and learning framework. So just as we are doing today, we regularly host and participate in knowledge exchange sessions with our special partners like Sernick today and our dear public at large. So I will introduce the team from Sernick, and the topic that they will be looking at is about the inclusion of emerging farmers in livestock value chains. We will be looking at the learnings that we've extracted from the projects that they implemented with us, which we called Sernick Emerging Farmers Project. The presenters will be the operations manager from Sernick, who's Petro Nodier. There she waves. You never disappoint, Petro. Tebogo Molele who's a project manager.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, and Michael Atkins.
Hello.
Michael,
morning,
you don't
everyone.
look like a farmer today.
I dressed up.
Michael is the M&E advisor from Sernick. So over to you, ladies and gentlemen.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lionel. I'm going to take the first part of the webinar. Just to give you an outline of it, we're going to talk about the background to the project, how we came up with it, how we designed it. Then we'll describe the project, and then look at the outcomes which we achieved in it, and obviously the key learnings, which is particularly important for this webinar. So first of all, the background to the project. In South Africa, we've got a large cattle population, about 13.9 million. Of that, about 60% or 8.34 million are in the formal economy, commercial agriculture, and which includes feedlots and extensive commercial farming. They contribute about 24.9 billion rand per annum to the formal economy. And on the other side, we've got about 40% of the cattle, or 5.56 million, which are informally farmed, and from a formal sector contribution, they are virtually invisible in the economy, but they do offer a large store of wealth for the individuals that own them. As I said, the informal sector represents a vast untapped resource, which can contribute to economic growth, and however, it has been unable to contribute meaningfully to the value in the sector as it lacks key support. And that support includes having inferior breeds of cattle and incorrect breeding techniques, unsophisticated farm and field management, and lack of market access and access to quality inputs, as well as a lack of finance to improve infrastructure on the farms. However, with the appropriate interventions and programs, many of these farmers can improve their livestock breeds to become commercially viable and increase employment and prosperity in South Africa. So how did we come up with the Sernick Emerging Farmers Development Project? Well, first of all, in 2015 and 2016, we piloted a small project, or relatively small project, where we got a 25 million rand loan from the Land Bank, from the wholesale finance facility of the Land Bank. And we applied that funding to to purchasing of feedlot animals on behalf of farmers. And the profits from that we applied into providing internships and other support to farmers. But that was a very short-term project. It was 2.5 years. And it really didn't look at a long-term contribution to the development of farmers. And at that time, though, we did understand the need that we needed to develop black farmers to integrate them more into the value chain. We felt that was a interesting and valuable addition that we could make to economic growth. And at that time, we then embarked on a concerted effort to design a sustainable and longer-term program to support black farmer development. So what came out of that was the program that we're talking about today. When we submitted an application to the Jobs Fund, and in 2018 we were awarded 186 million rand from the Jobs Fund, which was slightly lower at the time, but we got some more during COVID, and we committed to providing 250 million rand from Sernick itself in match funding, and the objective was to support 660 farmers throughout the process. So that project went on from 2018. It was completed at the end of 2022, but we're doing ongoing mentoring and monitoring of farmers, and farmers that are involved in the project still participate to this day, and we'll explain how that happens later on in the program. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Petro now to provide a detailed description of the project. Petro, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. So we would like to start with the philosophy of the Farmers Development Project. Sometimes we call it our value proposition, but it's really the philosophy of the project. So the first thing that we wanted to do was to build expertise. Not only do we provide accredited and non-accredited training, but we would like to demonstrate them practically. And it's usually in herd health management and a farm and business management skills. But you know, it's no use to have for the farmers to have a certificate on the wall. We want to see that they are implementing it. So the valuable part of our project was to go on farm and actually see if the farmer is implementing the trainer. So we provided ongoing mentoring to ensure training is adopted and that the farmer is progressing. The next part is then to measure and monitor. We do go to the farms every quarter and we actually check that the farmer not only implementing the training, but there's progress. You know, we try to get rid of this whole sense of entitlement that people must come and do things for you. And so we are encouraging farmers to do things for themselves and to put some sweat equity in it. So we measure the farmers' progress in terms of reports, and Tebogo will tell you later about the 13-point progress report. And not only does it help the farmer to understand where he's getting better or where he's going worse, but we can also provide those reports for the project and donor management. And if we really see that the farmer is passionate about what he's doing and that he is taking all the advice that we are giving him, we would provide them with additional support and opportunities to grow their farm businesses. You know, it's like sitting in the class. There's always people that are progressing very well, and then there's the people sitting at the back of the class hoping to pass. So we would like to work with the farmers that really are passionate about their farming. Okay, so the last thing is, and I think it is for everybody as truth, is we want to create sustainable wealth. Even when the program is gone or concluded, the farmers still stay in our ecosystem and they continue to participate in our value chain. You know, it will be silly if a farmer goes through all of this and then he reverts back to his old ways of doing things. So we'd really like the farmer to grow and not regress. The farm business continue to grow and providing intergenerational wealth accumulation. I must just say here as well is that if we have the older farmers, we would like them to appoint successors so that the successors can start taking over. And we have found in this project that there was a big movement from the older farmers to the younger farmers, and we need to make sure that there's succession with each farm. Thank you, Michael. I'm going to hand over to Tebogo.
Thank you very much, Petro. I think what we have done in the project, we used a tiered approach, which will drive transition from a subsistence farmer into a commercial farm. And we use that with an understanding that you can't just put a farmer on a certain level. There need to be an understanding of where the farmer is, so that when you assist them, you start them from a point where they're able to manage, or a point that they're able to understand their farming operation going up. And the model will drive transition through a step approach where a farmer will enter a tier 1 and transition to higher tiers as they advance their farming enterprise and implement some of the training that they would have acquired. And in the tiered approach, we have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. In tier 1, most will look at on farmers who have got less than 25 cattle. Those will be the entrants in terms of farmers that will take. Then our main pool was then tier 2. Tier 2, which targeted around 300 farmers. This will be farmers with more than 25 cattle, which 25 cattle and more. Then these are the farmers that from them, then we're gonna choose farmers that are gonna go to a higher tier. So meaning the farmers had only a direct entrance on tier 1 and tier 2, but going into tier 3 was based on selection and based on their farming operation. And on the tier 3, we're targeting 50 farmers, which had the ability to commercialize. These farmers that had the ability to can carry 100 plus in terms of cattle. But if you see, we look here, we're indicating in terms of cattle, but also land was a factor. But land, you will realize that is different in different area based on the carrying capacity. So we can't say the minimum requirement of land is 300 hectares, for example, because 300 hectares in Kroonstad or in Pretoria is not the same as in the Northern Cape based on the carrying capacity. So this was our tiered approach. Then the second one, then it is the benefit that were granted based on the different tiers that they were in. In most cases, the tier 1, which is farmers with less than 25 cattle, will go to their farm and do what we call a baseline to understand what they have and where they are. And after that, we'll place them on tier 1 and we'll just give them a 3-day course, short course, which mostly was on mindset shifting in them, understanding that they must now start treating farming more as a business than just as a hobby, as most will. Then from there, we'll mostly go then into tier 2 with farmers which have more than 25 cattle. The first thing we'll do is a baseline, then we'll have a quarterly visits to farms and monitor, where we monitor and as well give a proper practical training at farms so that they can improve their farming operation. We'll then have quarterly report in terms of reporting on how the farmers that are in tier 2, the farmers that we quarterly visit, how are they progressing? And this will be used as the selection to move them to tier 3, those who are qualifying. Then they will get an NQF, which is an accredited training. Some was in mixed farming, in animal production and stuff like that. Then the other incentives were as per negotiation with the project funders in terms of what more can we do, which in the Jobs Fund case, there was more we have done in terms of giving them some monetary value there as incentives. Then from there, we'll go to tier 3, which became the main focus then at the end, which is those that we have got the ability to commercialize. And the farmers that we have the ability to commercialize then will assist and support them in terms of financial and business management, and most importantly, which is succession planning, because it becomes useless to invest in a farming operation that in case something happens to the farmer the following day, then the farming operation is going to stop. So succession planning was one of the most important things that we looked at. Then the possible infrastructure and possible rental head, which in the Jobs Fund we had a infrastructure development and farms. We gave them livestock in terms of rental head that they had in the farm, as well with support for funding application, as well to fund to connect them with funders so that they can get capital to move their farming operation. Then we'll do a monthly visit, because that's the most important. We always say that any project to succeed, they need to be proper monitoring and proper evaluation, which the monthly visit was doing that, ensuring that they implement everything and they run their farming operation in a viable manner. Then we'll do the progress report monthly and quarterly to see where they are, and those that are struggling, then we'll assist them with making sure that they move their farming operation in a different level.
Now, the value chain is a very important part of our project. People must understand that you can't really just train farmers and empower farmers, but they must have a value chain that they can lock into. And for us, that was a very critical element of the project. It was an outlet for farmers to sell their unproductive cattle to. And also when we train them to rather sell their weaners on an annual basis, they could sell it to us. You must remember at the beginning of a project, the cattle might be of poorer quality, but the whole project works on getting farmers to improve the quality of their cattle and then to sell quality weaners to the feedlots. Okay, and then in the same way for the value chain, we could provide feed and cattle to the farmers. This is to teach them how to use supplements. The cattle, more than often, they would need an improved genetic bull. They would come and buy that at Sernick. And then also the rental herds, which consisted of 35 pregnant cattle, as well as a bull, which was provided to tier 3 farmers. Then you must also remember that it's very difficult to create jobs in the primary sector of a livestock. We found that out, and I will discuss it a little bit later. But you can create much more jobs in the value chain, in the feedlots, in the abattoirs, in the retail, wholesale, those parts of the value chain. if you can look at the diagram next to you, this is Sernick's value chain. You will see that we have land, we've got cash crops, we've got a Bonsmara stud, we've got commercial herd, we have a C-grade face feed testing station for bulls. So we make sure that only the best bulls go out in public. We've got a feeding factory, we've got a feedlot, we've got an abattoir and retail. So those are the elements that you require for emerging farmers to become really commercial at the end of the day, because they need to use those services. Okay, in this Jobs Fund project, there was also funding provided to enhance the value chain in certain areas. You must remember that we now all of a sudden get 300 extra farmers into our value chain. So we had to here and there enlarge the abattoir, improve the feedlot and so forth. So some of the funding was used for that. Then some of the funding was provided for feeding and growing cattle in the feedlot. So what we did with the profits from that custom feeding, it's called custom feeding, we used to subsidize the salaries of the tier 2 farmers. So they all got a salary for 12 months, which was generated from the feedlot through custom feeding to subsidize their salaries. And you must remember, if you do farmer development hand in hand with a value chain, then the money is recycled within that value chain. So it goes round and round in that value chain. Okay, so we're going to go to the outcomes of the project. Michael, I'm going to hand over to you again.
Thanks very much, Petro. Yes, so this is what everything is judged on in the reporting that we do to Jobs Fund, is what are the outcomes that we promised and what are the outcomes that we achieved. So first of all, in the tiers, we, as you saw earlier, we targeted 660 farmers in tier 1, 300 farmers in tier 2, and 50 farmers in tier 3. And we managed to achieve all those outcomes. Those farmers had about more than 35,000 cattle, and we're farming on a total of over 450,000 hectares. So you can see the impact in terms of numbers and area that we have. We also did concluded 4,060 accredited short courses, which were between 3 and 5 days. For the tier 1s, of those 4,060, 2,160 were with the tier 1s. And 660 farm assessments were undertaken by our monitors. In terms of the tier 2, Petro mentioned the custom feeding, the feedlot feeding. So the profits from that went towards paying 650 salaries for 12 months, and those salaries were either at the minimum wage of agricultural minimum wage, or for the farmers themselves, it was about double that. Those tier 2 farmers also had completed 330 NQF learnerships, so in animal production, and that was either the farmers themselves or their workers. And that was also a condition of them getting the salaries. They had to complete the NQFs before they could get the 12-month salary contribution. So you can see what Petro was saying earlier, where there's farmers have to participate and contribute before the incentives are provided. At the tier 3 level, for the 50 farmers, we provided 1,750 pregnant cows and 50 bulls to those farmers. Those were on we call it a rental herd basis, where the herds were in their possession for 4 years. I think Petro is going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. And we also provided 16.8 million rand of on-farm infrastructure. That infrastructure was based on farm assessment and depending on what the farmer needed. So it could have been cattle handling equipment. It was also water, mostly water and cattle handling equipment, but it was also other things like sheds and items to improve their farming. In total, the total funding from Sernick and the Jobs Fund was 434 million. It was 187 million rand contribution from Jobs Fund. The original contribution was 165 million. That was extended during COVID. And then there was a 244 million rand contribution from Sernick. And then in terms of the funding generated from the feedlot feeding, that was 560 million rand, which was used to contribute towards costs of running the projects. And then there was an additional benefit that we provided, and this only actually came in during COVID, and we got fantastic support from the Jobs Fund, where some of our farmers were having some short-term funding issues, and we were able to provide 13 million rands of loans to farmers. And obviously, being the Jobs Fund, the billion-dollar thing is how many jobs did we create? We were targeted to create 1,400 jobs, and we managed to create 1,433 jobs. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about that in more detail just now. So what are some of the longer term benefits? The project itself was designed to be 3 years. With COVID, we eventually extended it to 5 years, and it still continues now to this day in the support that we provide to the farmers, because some of the rental herds are still out with the farmers. But there are a number of other longer term benefits that we can already start to see. So first of all, particularly the tier 3 farmers are very much independent decision makers. They're able to compete, or many of them are able to compete with commercial farmers. And that really was, if we look at the original theory of change, was driving farmer development from subsistence through to sub-commercial into commercial. So we feel that's a very, very good outcome. Another one is that the farmers are able to apply for loans in their individual capacities. Before that, when they were farming informally, they didn't have the systems in place to be able to apply. In the past 8 or 9 months, 17 million rand has been approved to 6 farmers by ABSA, and there's probably 40 in the pipeline for funding with both ABSA and the Land Bank. And importantly, the farmer herds continue to grow. Farmers come back to us from time to time looking to buy more cattle. Some farmers are looking to extend their farms, buy more farming land as well, which are lovely longer term benefits that we're seeing from the project. And then the other ones, we often asked, why does Sernick do this? Why did Sernick put in 244 million rand into a project? So the benefits to Sernick is that there's a lot of purchases from the value chain. So both during the project and even after the project has continued, is feed and animals is purchased on an ongoing basis by our participating farmers. And also, importantly, there's a supply of good genetic weaners to the value chain from farmers. So weaners, the genetic quality of weaners going into a feedlot is particularly important to ensure that they're able to turn a profit in the feedlot after their 6 months, and our farmers have been able to supply some of those weaners to the feedlot. In addition, we've started other farmer development programs elsewhere. We've recently started one in the Royal Bafokeng area in the northwest, and then another one in the Northern Cape province. Both of those are supported by mining companies, and both of them already look like they're expanding into bigger projects as they see success happening even since we started in August. We also completed a shortish one, which was basically mainly a training one, which was funded by ABSA Bank, and that was successfully completed about 6 months ago. I'm going to hand over to Petro now to talk about the key learnings. I think this is one of the keys that we are looking for out of this webinar. So over to you, Petro. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so what are the overall key success factors for the project? So the first thing is we demonstrated that we achieved the outcomes that were forecasted in the implementation plan. So when one does these projects, one must carefully plan so that you can plan for achieving those outcomes. And then the success was depending on a multitude of factors, including a strong project management and supporting team. Now, luckily with Sernick, Not only did we have a strong project management team, but, you know, because we are a company that has the whole value chain, we could get support from people from the feed factory, from the feed lot, and so forth. So it was inside support that we had. So what you need for a successful project is really a strong project management, as well as know where to find your support. The other thing that was very important was when the farmers visit Sernick and they see Sernick's farm and how we do things, they would like to replicate that. So it provided as a inspiration or a future target. I just laughed when, you know, I would tell people it took us 40 years to get there, and then some of the farmers will say, but I'm going to do this 5 to 10 years. So the Sernick value chain provided inspiration for the farmers. The next one is really that the project is a long-term intervention. And you must remember that when you farm with cattle, it's not a quick fix. It is a long-term intervention or long-term investments. They are not created in a year. You must remember we must go from poor quality cattle, not using supplements and medicines, to getting stronger genetics in, using a management plan for the health regime, introducing supplements and so forth. So yeah, you can probably by year 3 or 4 see that the body score condition is improving, that you get nicer quality cattle and so forth. So please do not think that you are going to become a super duper farmer within 1 year. It takes time. And you know that with cattle, your income is probably once a year when you sell the weaners. Some of the traditional farmers don't even get the income every year because for some reason they are keeping the cattle until they're very old. So please, this is not a quick fix project. The last two, the next factor is when they see their success changing into rands, they continue to farm in a way that they've been taught. Now, you must remember, in these type of projects, I doubted that once a farmer has seen the results in rands and cents, that they will turn back to their old ways of farming. I think it's like a little button that clicks and says, you know, I can make a lot of money with livestock if I farm the correct way. And so we see this as the type of project that will lead to long-term sustainability, because the farmer would probably not go back to farming the way he used to farm before he started with this intervention. Okay, and then the last factor that is causing the success of the project is the strong support and close support from the Jobs Fund team members. You must remember, when you partner with the Jobs Fund, you become like a family, and they stay with you all the way. They also come and they visit you every quarter. They go and see different farms. They actually go and check that we do what we set out to do. So that is the overall key success factors. Michael, if you can go to the next slide. So some of the key learnings that we want to illustrate to you. Michael? Okay, so we are going to talk.
Can you see it?
Next slide, please.
Can you see it, the next one?
Unless everybody else can see the next one.
No, we can't.
Okay, but let me talk about it. So
it has moved forward on mine. Sorry.
So let's talk about selection of farmers. How does a farmer become a member of this project? What makes him eligible? There we go. Thank you, Michael. He has to have access to land, and in the case of the Jobs Fund project, it needed to be a formal tenure, land tenure. In other words, it had to be either his own land or lease or a PTO, a permission to occupy. He had to have livestock. You couldn't participate in this project if you didn't have livestock at all. And they needed to be full-time farmers. In other words, people that can participate in this project needed to be on the farm. They can't be remotely sitting in Joburg looking after or doing a job and then participate in the project. The other important thing was attitude. We needed farmers that are really livestock farmers. And interestingly enough, we soon found out who are the farmers and who are not interested in farming. Because in this project, there was nothing for mahala. You had to put in sweat equity. You had to pass your training. You had to at least listen to the advice of the monitor that would visit your farm. And in that way, we could place people on a specific tier and we could promote them to the next tier if he was passionate and had the drive to be in the project. So selection was really, you had to have land, you had to have animals, and you had to farm full-time, and you had to have passion. The next part on the participation is we had emphasized a lot on voluntary participation. In other words, if you apply to become a farmer to this project, it means that you would probably want to follow the instructions or the compliance issues of the project, and that you are willing and able to do so. So we could not force farmers to participate. In other words, if we said we are doing the Free State farmers, there are many farmers that did not participate in this project because they did not apply. Okay. The other one is we could not force farmers to move up the tiers. They had to earn their way up the tiers. If they didn't want to go up or didn't want to get the incentives and they just wanted to stay where they are, that was it. You know, we didn't want to force people to go up the tiers. And I just wanted to say something here about tier 3. You could still be requesting to go to tier 1 or 2, but you could not request to be in tier 3. You had to be selected after you have gone through the NQF, after we have been visiting your farm for at least a year whilst you were doing the NQF, and then you had to be selected because of your passion, the fact that you could host more than 100 cattle on your farmland and that has enough carrying capacity for that. The other one was farmers can leave the program, and we only had one farmer that left the program in tier 3 because he thought he could get more benefits from the department, but that backfired. But he actually left the program. And the last one is the involuntary sale of cattle to Sernick. We don't tie our farmers into a contract. They can sell their cattle to whoever they want to. Usually they would ask Sernick first. If we have the capacity then to buy it from them, we will do so. But if they can get more money from somebody else, they are welcome. They are welcome to sell it to anybody. I see that there's a question that it didn't include does the farmer have a registered enterprise or not registered. So the farmer was actually participating in this project on his personal capacity. It wasn't a requirement that he has an enterprise, if that answers that question. And then the number of hectares was part of the questions in the application form, and it would have been confirmed when we went and did the baseline. You must remember, a farmer would apply formally. We would ask a lot of questions, not only about his land, but the water, his infrastructure, etc. And then once we get the application, we will send out a monitor to his farm to go and do a baseline. We regard the baseline as the beginning point, and then we would, according to the baseline, we will check his brand mark for his cattle, whether it's true what he said in his application. And from the baseline, we would then put a farmer on tier 1 or tier 2. Okay. So I'm going to go to the next key learning, tiered approach. So the reason why we did the tiered yes.
Sorry, Petro. Maybe whilst you were on the selection criteria, there was a question that came from Piani on the criteria of choosing the specific area for the implementation of the project. I'm just raising it since you were looking at the selection criteria for farmers.
I was trying to put the answer in writing, and there it goes, but I had to present, you know, so I couldn't do two things at once.
Okay.
Okay, so the reason why the project was in the Free State and a bit in, it's because Sernick is based in the Free State and our market is in Gauteng. So we did Kenneth Kaunda as well as a bit of Gauteng in Umfuleni. But we are extending our reach now to other provinces. We've done the APSA project in Northwest. We are doing Bafokeng in Northwest now, and we've also now in Northern Cape. And the real reason for identifying an area for the guy who asked the question is it's where funding is available. You must know that all this funding doesn't come from Sernick. We have to find the funding to do these programs. So we are extending into other provinces, but it's only really where the funding is available. Okay, does that answer all the questions that was in the box? Sorry, it's very difficult to read the chat and present.
Yeah, no, yes, I will raise as they come, those that are probably not answered.
Okay. Okay, so the tiered approach, and you know the reason why that is you get a lot of farmers that have very few cattle. They form the bottom of the pyramid, which we will probably call tier 0 and tier 1. And as you go up, you provide more incentives and you start sifting out or funding out the people. So farmers were rewarded for implementing their training. In the case of the jobs funds, is they could be promoted to tier 3, they got salaries, and farmers were rewarded for maintaining that standard. It was like, you know, in the olden days, we spoke about the carrot and stick approach. You know, if you want the carrot, you must also do the work that goes with the carrot. Okay, so we use this tier technique to identify and support the better farmers, and then ensure their value for money as only deserving farmers are supported. And you will see that through the funnel is if you get to tier 3, that's like the pinnacle. And I must just say that we also have tier 4s in that derived from our Jobs Fund project, and the tier 4s are actually becoming shareholders in our abattoir. So not all projects have tier 4s. It depends on what the situation is and whether there is some incentive for them. So in the Jobs Fund, we've already, from the Jobs Fund project, we've already rewarded 10 people by selecting them into tier 4 and becoming beneficiaries from Temong, which is our company that has 26% shares in the abattoir. Okay, so that is that one, and I'm going to hand over to Tebogo to tell us how do we assess farmers. Tebogo?
Maybe just if I can chip in there just before Tebogo comes in, what is a tier 4?
What we did was, and Tebogo could also do this, but what we did was, you know, you have a hell of criteria to get people into tier 3. But sometimes when you get into tier 3, you become complacent and you just do enough to satisfy us. But there are farmers in tier 3 that are still excellent and are really working hard to remain excellent and really grow their herds and so forth. So we decided to reward tier 3s by selecting only the best of the best into tier 4. And that is going up the hierarchy and getting shareholding into Temong, which has got the shareholding into the abattoir in Sernick. So it also then gives our farmers the opportunity to become shareholders of Sernick. Okay, Tebogo, over to you.
Thank you very much, Petro. I think like I've said in the last slide I was doing, that the success of every project is based mainly on monitoring and evaluation. If you don't monitor, then the project hardly becomes successful. And I think we had in the project the 13-point assessment framework, where we will mostly judge our farmers based on the first one will look in terms of whether the farmer is still very traditional to commercial farming practices, where we see the movement. Are they moving from their normal conservative traditional way of farming? Are they willing and open? Are they moving towards a commercial way of farming? Then we'll look at the calving rate, because most of our farmers are cow-calf farmers, and their money is only in the winners and the calves that they produce. So they need to improve their calving rate so that they can improve the turnover into their farm, so that their farm can now become profitable. Then the other thing we'll look at is the record keeping, because when we started with the project with baseline, we realized that farmers have no understanding of what's happening in their own farm. Most, they don't know how many cattle they have, how many cows they have, and then that becomes a problem. Then the record keeping introduced in ensuring that the farmer is aware of each and everything that is happening on the farm, so that they can be able to have got steps in place to make sure that they mitigate certain things that might affect their farming operation. If a cow doesn't give you a calf every year, you need to slaughter it, but it's unfortunate you can't slaughter it if you don't know if it's giving birth or not. Then obviously look in terms of the water management. We always tell people that a cow drinks roughly 50 liters of water a day. So we need farmers that have got proper water reticulation in the farm, and ensuring that their animals have got proper water system in place. Pasture management is the very most important one. I always say that you can never be a livestock farmer if you are not grass farmer. First, before you become a livestock farmer, you become grass farmer, because grass is food of those animals. For them to be productive, to be healthy, they must be well fed. Then we'll look at the animal handling equipment, because the animals that you have, you must work on, you must vaccinate, you must dehorn, you must dip, and you must do all these type of things. And you are unable to do that if you don't have proper handling equipment in place. Then obviously we'll judge that in terms of what you have, and those that move to a different level, to a tier 3, that's when we'll assist. Cattle health is very important. Those who are in the agricultural sector, they'll realize that the beef sector struggled this year based on foot and mouth disease, and that could have been avoided with proper biosecurity measures in place. So we look at the animal health. What is the animal health you have in place? Do you have biosecurity in place? Do you have a vaccination program? Because it's cheaper to vaccinate than to treat. Do you have that in place? And stuff like that. Then we'll look at the cattle supplement program. You can have grass, but grass alone is not enough, because grass doesn't have certain nutrients. For an animal to produce on a yearly basis, to be in a good state, in a healthy state, it should be supplemented so that it can have the necessary nutrients it has. Do you have a cattle supplement in place? If not, then we introduce that. Then if you adhere to it, then that's where we move and we score you higher, because you are improving on that. Also working on improving genetics. Remember, feedlots, when we buy cattle that are going to perform well in the feedlots, that are going then to perform well in the abattoir as we slaughter them. And we'll always buy proper genetics at a good price, and those that are not proper genetics, they'll obviously not get a good price. So we look at farmers that work on improving their genetics, bringing proper bulls, bringing proper cattle, so that they can produce proper winners for the market. Also, we look at the growth in the core head. Farming, mostly the first thing is quality, but after improving on quality is a game of numbers. The more you have and the more you can be able to manage, the more turnover and money you make in your farming operation, then the more you run your farm as a business and a profit. Then as well, we look at the training implemented. As we have said, we offer training. So we look at the training. Do you implement the training that you received? Each and everything that you have learned, are you coming back to the farm to implement it? Then we rate you as well on that. But the most important thing that we look at is the farmer's attitude, because we will never be able to implement each of all these 13 points if the farmer's attitude is not correct. The farmer should be willing to work with us so that we work. If I come to the farmer should be willing to understand that I'm bringing some expertise that he doesn't have, and be willing to open up to listen to me so that we can work together in making sure that the farming operation improve. And as well, this one is one of the things that the farm should be neat, and the general farm should be neat. You can't be a farmer with plastic around, with everything running around, because that on its own obviously affect your animals. If you have plastic around, animals eat plastic in your farming operation, they're going to die. So those are the things that we look at. And farmer must achieve 70% of these. We will never achieve 100%, but at least a farmer must achieve 70% of this and willing to improve on some. And the result in improved ability to participate in the value chain, then the farmers then becomes eligible to be promoted to the next year. So we look at this and we judge you based on this. And this then in terms of the management, you might have the number of cattle and the size of the farm, but if you don't practice this, then you can move to a different tier. Then other aspect then will be the ability to diversify their cash flow, which we have been successful with many farms on this, the ability to maintain and improve their credit worthiness so that they can be able to get additional farming into their farming operation, and as well demonstrate leadership on farm and amongst other peers. Those will be some of the factors that we look at in terms of judging a farmer, whether it's going to succeed or not. Petro?
Thank you, Tebogo. Okay, so I'm going to speak on 2 key learnings, some of the challenges. So you know that it's very hard to create jobs. And what we did, one of our mistakes in planning this job was thinking that we could create 300 jobs in Tier 1. Now, if you look at the bottom corner, a Tier 1 farmer has less than 25 cattle. And you cannot actually make enough money to pay a salary on that level. So it was insufficient to stimulate job creation. And then also on the other levels, it took longer to create jobs in Tier 2 and Tier 3. So we had to find solutions for this. And we had to look very innovatively at job creation. So we've created additional jobs in the value chain. So one of the things that we did was, for example, is to train some of our Tier 3 farmers in meat processing and becoming blockmen. What it means is that they get qualifications in cutting up carcasses. And just a nice story here, for example, Zafrullah Yamoluddin, that is in the Free State, just below Bloemfontein. He has now got a network of 400 Muslim families that buys their meat from him. So he obtains the carcasses from the local abattoir, which is halal, and then he would cut it up and distribute it. And so in that way, we have helped another 30 farmers to create little small butcheries of their own, and where they could distribute it in their local value chain. We also then, instead of using service providers for infrastructure, we created an infrastructure team with 2 groups so that we can employ more people. And then in Tier 3, we created more jobs than what we forecasted. So in this way, we were able to handle the job creation. I must tell you, and Shadrach and Lionel laugh when I talk about it, but this caused me sleepless nights just to make sure that we can get the appropriate jobs created for this project. Okay, the last challenge that we had was the initial skepticism of the participants. You must know that we started this project at the same time that the Vrede Dairy scandal came out. You know, the whole gemors about what happened to the Vrede Dairy and so on. So people were very, very skeptical. You know, who's the Sernick group? that are coming with more promises, because other agencies also provided so similar projects, but it never materialized. One of the things that we wanted to do, apart from the skepticism, was we wanted the people with the poorer quality or unproductive quality animals to sell those cattle and rather buy proper genetic cattle. And guys, this was almost the death of the project, because the farmer said, no, we don't trust you. Why must we do this? And so forth. And so for the first 3 months of the project, there was a hell of a lot of skepticism and reluctance to even apply for the project. So the solution for this was to build trust amongst the people. And once we started working with some of the farmers and they showed progress, the rest of the group came, and then it was like an avalanche. We had more people wanting to get into the program than we could actually cater for. So building trust with our farmers was the most important aspect. And the reason why we could build trust with the farmers is that the monitors actually went to their farms, listened to their problems, addressed their problems, and look after them and told them where they go wrong. And the moment that they realized that there's positiveness in this project, it got rid of the initial skepticism. Now, in order to also swap animals, we didn't force the swap. Initially, we wanted to force the swap, but we realized we can't just force the swap. And then by the time they get to tier 2 and 3, farmers realize that they must swap the inferior animals for better animals. So it is a process that took a very long time through community consultation. And now farmers realize that it costs exactly the same to look after an unproductive cattle or an unproductive cow than it costs to look after a productive cow. Now, there's some figures that I haven't written down here, but I want to tell you, if you produce 8 extra weaners from last year to the next year, it's equivalent to a job. It raises the same financial benefits as having a 12-month job. Okay, so that you must keep in mind. If you raise 7 or 8 weaners more than the previous year. The other important thing that you must remember is that a cow must give you a calf every year for 8 years. She can even go up to 12 years if you treat her properly and you look after her health and provide her with supplements. So if your cows are not producing or not productive, people get rid of them and use that money. You might have to use the money for 3 unproductive cows to buy yourself a productive cow, but you won't look back. She will produce a calf for you every year for the next 8 to 12 years. Okay, so that is the end of my story. I'm going to hand over to Michael for the next slide.
Thanks, Petra. Just to continue on from that, from the key learnings, thank you very much. I think one of the key things that we learned from this project is that partnerships are fundamental in making a success of the project, and we got comprehensive support that was provided by the Jobs Fund team throughout the project life cycle, from application through to due diligence, the actual project itself, and then the closeout. So we built a strong foundation with the Jobs Fund team that was assigned, and there's a comprehensive process with hands-on support from the team during the project design stage. They helped us with refining the theory of change. And the JF team, they've obviously seen a lot of development projects, and they can put some of their learnings that they've got into our project, which really helped in terms of getting it through the investment committee process. And then obviously ongoing guidance. They provided practical guidance and suggestions to mold the concept that we had presented into something that was palatable for the Jobs Fund Investment Committee. I think, sorry, just on the evaluation, on the design side, and up to the investment committee side, it's very much that the committee, the team that is presented, that is assigned to your project, is very much an advocate for your project throughout the different processes on the Jobs Fund side. So if you are applying for Jobs Fund funding in future projects, I think the key is working closely with that Jobs Fund team and giving them and then throughout the project implementation period, there's quarterly monitoring and or the constant monitoring and quarterly reporting. It's as a minimum requirement, the quarterly reporting is very comprehensive. It's from the financial side, so what money you've spent, what money you've got in, what the activities are, the outcomes, and also some narratives about how the project is doing. Once the quarterly report is in, the team provides feedback and input. They review it. They provide detailed feedback on how they see it from their side. And then even though at the beginning of the project you are given an award, your grant funding is only paid on a quarterly basis. So the next draw request is then goes to the relevant committee. But as long as your project is performing in target, the next tranche is paid. Obviously, also once your match funding is paid as well. One of the key things that we found with the Jobs Fund is there was very much a flexible approach to the rollout. So the contract is the project is contracted in the implementation plan, and that's very, very detailed, and it tells you what has to be done over the next 3 years. But you know, the reality is when you're actually implementing, which do not always go according to plan. For example, what Petro was talking about, like the jobs in Tier 1, the challenges we had with the herd swap. But through the appropriate mechanism, they've got something called the midterm evaluation about halfway through the project, and we were able to adjust some of the aspects of the project to make sure that we succeeded. So they don't have a rigid approach to the project implementation. It's quite a flexible and accommodating one, because I think from their side they want success as much as we want success. And then in terms of some of the innovations that we piloted in the project, the first was the tiered approach, which we've spoken about extensively. The reason for that is really to be able to apply limited resources to your most deserving farmers. So we could see which farmers were performing, promote them into Tier 3 to spend the money on those farmers, because at Tier 3, the benefit that the farmer is getting is 1.4 million rand. So for those 50 farmers, we had to make sure that we know they're going to perform, and they would have gone through their short course training. Their NQF training would have been monitored for well over a year before they were appointed into Tier 3. Then the other thing which is very, very innovative, or we feel that's very innovative in this particular project, is the fact that we combined grant funding activities with commercial activities. So Petro has spoken about the feedlot feeding, which is called the custom feeding, which generated nearly 560 million rand of additional funds to ensure the sustainability of the project. Now that custom feeding, it's called a revolving fund, that's continuing at the moment, and that's actually what's paying for the continuing monitoring and mentoring, which is ongoing at the moment. The rental herds is also another innovative concept. We have mentioned it a couple of times in the presentation, but just to explain what it is the Tier 3 farmers, once they had their infrastructure installed, they were provided with a what we called a rental herd. It was 35 pregnant cows and a bull, and they were given those herds for 4 years or 4 breeding season, and they had to pay back a portion of it to the project, and they were able to keep 60% of the offspring to grow their herd. So by the time they hand back their rental herds, their the 35 cows would have been replaced by possibly more than that. And that's part of the ongoing monitoring, because the project itself is formally finished. The rental herds are still out with many of the 50 farmers. We need to pay for that, and that's what the commercial activities are able to continue funding that part of the project. And then there's a job creation through the value chain. I think Petra spoke extensively about this, that while we created jobs at the tier 2 and tier 3 level, the value chain, you've got to look at the whole value chain, not just on farm in the tiers themselves, but throughout in the feedlot, in the abattoir, and the retail as well. So we were able to extract a lot of value for jobs fund in that area to be able to achieve our 1,433 jobs. And I think now we are just pausing for questions. I think Lionel is going to facilitate that. Lionel.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Deboka. Thank you, Petra. At this point, we will allow the questions to be raised verbally. You will be able to raise your hand, and then we will take your question. Now,
Lionel, there are some questions in the chat as well. Maybe as you were going to say, sorry, I cut in.
Yes.
Maybe you want to take those questions while people are thinking about theirs. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Nel. There was one on insurance which came much earlier, and the response was you do not take insurance for the farmers. I remember there was a farmer who had his stock destroyed by fire. How did the project assist in that case, given that you do not take insurance? Petra, you can come in.
Can I answer that one? No, we didn't have mass destruction by fire. What happens if it's an act of God, like a lightning strike or things like that, we would not ask the farmer to replace it. But if it was negligence from the farmer, we would ask the farmer to replace that rental herd cattle. So, for example, if 2 cows were stolen from the jobs fund herd, then the farmer, because he didn't give enough attention to his cattle, he would have to replace those 2 cattle. But if it's an act of God, lightning, then all that happens is that his rental herd just gets smaller, and he doesn't have to account for that 1 or 2 cows that were struck by lightning. Okay. Insurance on cattle is very expensive. It's sometimes we say it's not worth it.
Okay, thanks. I see Dr. Solomon. I can't see the Dr. Solomon Molele. Do you have a question, say?
Correct. Good day. The Sernick Group has done a fantastic work within the agricultural beef value chain. With that said, how do we begin to build a new cohort of farmers that will equally begin to be a bulk supplier in terms of the export market? With that said, in terms of disease management control and prevention on animals within the program, what is the emphasis on it? As you would recall, we are just recovering from foot and mouth disease. What is in the cohort currently? What is the emphasis on disease control and prevention to ensure that the herd is disease-free moving forward within the beef sector? I thank you.
Thank you. Maybe Dr. Solomon, before you, just a brief background. Where are you from? Which institute you from?
Well, I am primarily a farmer as well. I am based in Heidelberg, and just next to your competitor, Karen Beef.
Okay.
We also provide farm management services coupled with farmer support and development by way of just nurturing the pipeline. That is critical within the beef industry. As you would know, we only have the big 4 major players that are dominating the market, and there is new growth paths within the sector that talks to what we call the AFCTA, and of course the new opportunity that recently where China had indicated an appetite to have opened its doors for South African beef products. That is the space I play in terms of setting up the VPN protocol in different farms. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Tebogo, you're gonna tackle that one?
Yeah, I think I'll tackle the second one, then I'll give away the first one. In terms of the emphasis on in terms of animal health. I think on the project, one of the things, Doc, that we have established that each and every farmer that we start working with, especially when we move higher into tier 3, is that we do a testing of both brucellosis and TB, because those are diseases that have the ability to can bankrupt a farm, and we make sure that the farm is clean before going forward in terms of working with the farmer. So that is the first in terms of animal health. The second thing that we do, we implement a vaccination program, a proper vaccination program at the farm. Mostly in the Free State, we'll do multiclostridial, we'll do anthrax, we'll do lumpyvex, Rift Valley, and those stuff. So that is the second part. Then the most important part which we emphasize on our farmers is biosecurity. One, biosecurity in terms of not allowing just any movement into the farm. That is number one. Number two, as well, they don't just buy cattle anywhere. We also advise against buying at those open auction cattle just to come for breeding, because then the risk of diseases are there and the movement into the farm. And they say each and every animal that they buy, they must have the proof that is clear of any disease. As well, when we come, we also create a quarantine camp into the farm in ensuring that the farmers don't just get animals from outside and directly put them into their productive stock immediately. So we have a plan of a 28-day quarantine where they quarantine the animal before they can. And as well, in making sure that any vehicle that comes into their farm, they know where it's from and have a clear understanding. So the biosecurity, it's very central in terms of everything that we do, and as well knowing what is it that you are buying, where you are buying it from, and know as well its health status.
Thank you, Tebogo. Petro, you want to tackle the first part? You muted, Petro.
I was so excited. Okay, Doc, what we really need is for all the partners to align, especially the departments in the various provinces, because if we can align this model and the development model, especially on the former land tenure, then we can go great strides in commercializing our farmers. There were a lot of questions asking about commonage farming. The problem with commonage farming is if every farmer on the commonage is not working together in one group, then it's going to be very difficult to allay the fears of biosecurity because there's no control. You know, when cattle just roam freely on the commonage, they get into contact with lots of things. You know, there's no fences. A jackal could have brought, you know, a cow that had abandoned her calf, you know, from brucellosis. The jackal could have taken that fetus and dragged it, and then other cattle can be contaminated. So it's very difficult if the people on commonage land or communal lands don't work together. So in our new projects, especially in the Bafokeng and in the Northern Cape, where we are going to work with commonage farmers, we are promoting that each group works together, form a, and aspire to biosecurity, because we don't want them just to bring in cattle and take out cattle without the necessary permits, transportation. We want them to be in a biosecure area where there's fences or at least major roads, so that we can make sure that they stay within a specific area. So at the moment, it's very difficult to work with commonage and communal lands, but we are looking to find a way to do this through the Bafokeng and the Northern Cape project. So we are going to test some of the model in those areas to see how we can work with that. But I think the bottom line is that people or farmers must work together. If they're not prepared to work together in one specific area, we will never get biosecurity within commonages and communal land. I just wanted to say that, as well as we need to get departments to align, to have similar models, so that we can all work towards one direction, and that's to commercialize and to get subsistence farmers to benefit from their cattle, to change from a mindset of traditional farming to that of making more money out of it, make more viable farming.
Okay. Thank you, Petra. There was a
Sorry,
hand.
Chair. Sorry,
Yes.
Chair. It's the work. I've been trying to raise my hand. I can't seem to make it.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry, Teboho.
I
Sorry,
see you are
Teboho,
in the
can you
queue.
pause? Sorry, can you pause? I've got, let me say this. So first Mike wants to come in and he wants to talk to the issue of exports. Then
Okay.
I had Claudia Radebi's hand. Then I had Ryan Newborn's hand. Then I had Mzwandeli's hand. And lastly now, Teboho raised his hand. Okay, so that's the order of questions. But perhaps you let Michael answer the question that was raised around exports, and we'll take it in that way. Thanks, Lionel.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. I think the question was from Dr. Malefe, I think. So it was around accessing exports. So first of all, one of the keys is the disease control, to be able to know where the cattle are originating from. The other challenge is that getting the large orders, you spoke about China, for example, is really the big beef value chain companies that get that. I mean, it's I think mostly Karen Beef and Sparta are those ones that are able to export at the moment. So the exports are mostly indirect for farmers. To build a value chain organization capable of exporting, you're talking sort of in the hundreds of millions of rands. I mean, even from the Sernick perspective, for example, we don't do exports in any large quantities. It's mostly local. So at the moment, I think the export market is a huge potential opening, but it needs substantial investments, and it needs a lot of farmers like our farmers to be able to, and farmers from other programs to be able to contribute the livestock, the weaners into that, because the demand that China has is immense. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Sally Hadebe, you were next on the queue.
I think Slalia has dropped his hand now, so you can go to Ryan Mzwandeli and then Teboho.
Okay, thanks, because I can't see my screen.
I'm here. Sorry, Chair.
Is it Klale?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chair. I just have, I think, two questions. But firstly, I think Ms. Petro, I think, really tried to answer it. Firstly, I'm a chairperson of Yard in the Free State, in the district of Tamfutsanyana. I'm working a lot with young people, young farmers around the area. So, but I have one question in terms of the inclusion of farmers, more especially at the entry level. And when you talk about the entry level, we are talking about those ones at the common age. Firstly, we have a group of young people, I think in Harrismith, they are at the common age, but of which it is controlled. They do everything, farm management practices, they do them together. We talk about your vaccination programs, you talk about the works. But now my question is there any portion in the job funding to help such young farmers? Because if I listened carefully, Ms. Petro talked about the issue of it is an uncontrolled environment. But now, in the issue of them now that is controlled, how can you guys help them? And secondly, without any waste of time, I would also like to ask you concerning the issue of when you are using a portion of land that belongs to a family, because most of us, we are using our family lands. Can you be able to help me independently, not as a family? Thank you very much.
Okay,
Once another 2 months, 2 weeks or 3 weeks,
I'm not sure who's on the line.
I think. Let me mute Kashefa. Yeah.
Okay. I'm happy to hear that you are in a controlled community. But you must remember that the Jobs Fund project is nearly over now. There is no space at the moment for new entrants into the Jobs Fund. It was a 5-year program, and this is the key learnings from that program. But be that as it may, if you need help, we could always just send a monitor to your area, but it will just be a courtesy visit to show you what can be done or not. You know, what we need to do for you is then to find finance to make it into a proper project, and which at the moment it can't be done through the Jobs Fund because their window has recently closed, and they will probably only advertise next year if they get additional funding from Treasury.
Thank you, Petra. The next one was Ryan.
It's Ryan
Newborn.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And my question was actually stemming from I'm involved with the implementation of a similar project in the Eastern Cape, and the challenges that we have around a number of smaller farmers farming together on commonages or communal land, and I think Petra has comprehensively covered that. So I'm happy on that. But well done to Sernick and to the Jobs Fund team, and particularly around the innovation around the jobs. We all know how challenging it is in the primary space. So well done, and yeah, thank you. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan.
Mzwandile is next, followed by Tebogo.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, thanks, guys. Yeah, actually, I don't know if what I'm going to ask might have been covered previously before, but there's a project which we are doing in the Free State. It's irrigation, and what we had to do there when we did the beneficiation was also to bring in university students, about 10 of them. That studied agriculture, from agri management, economics, and so forth. So I just want to ask, maybe as you said, your program currently is 5-year, that perhaps in the next opening, could we not look at tailor making the offering, and that offering then to also say that you make allowance for university students to also be facilitated for, and by that I mean, you are currently dealing with only farms who seemingly are established but are in the process of being commercialized, where I feel the younger people is where some of these funds and concentration should go. So if you, for instance, take your top students, let's say at some of these colleges, I know Department of Agriculture has got such in the Free State, it may be a bit from university, and even if you got land reform department with you to provide the farm, and to assist at that level, I think that would be much more long-term sustainable, because number one, you're getting a much better equipped individual, much younger, and your return on investment would be much longer. But yes, the issue here is the barrier to entry Hence, I'm saying I think perhaps for the future we should look at how this can be tailor-made to even look at that entry, which is the much younger individuals, but who are intellectually capable of being a long-term investment for such concepts. Thanks.
Thank you, Mzwandile, for that contribution. Are you from the academic side?
No, I'm actually more from investment side, but not at this moment. It's not red meat, but that investment also now includes the academic component.
Okay, thanks. Petra, you?
It's a difficult one to answer. You know, yes, we can use the graduates as interns, but they usually require a stipend and so forth, for which we must find funding. So yes, every year we apply to AgriSeta for internships. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't get it. I know the department has got a lot of interns that they employ every year, and they pay them a fancy salary. But you know, for example, now that I have the Bafokeng and the Northern Cape project, I would have loved to have interns, but there's no salaries or stipends coming forth from whoever, you know, from AgriSeta and things like that. So it is a difficult thing. Yes, we would want the younger people to get first-hand experience, especially on our projects. If they would want to do it for free, and I can't, you know, I can't really do that to them, they can come, but we would have to select them as well. You know, there are, and as the speaker said, you know, we need to select the top guys, because there are graduates that has never done any practicals before. You know, we need to sift and select those graduates to become interns on projects of ours. So at the moment, yes, there is space for such a thing, but we need to find the attached salaries, etc., to that. Mzwandile, would you like to add to that? Or
yeah, I just wanted to clarify the point I was making. So just to make an example, if Mzwandile is capable of becoming a commercial farmer,
yes,
but Mzwandile does not have the means to enter this industry. So that's why I'm saying that it shouldn't, or when we deal then with university or tertiary students, I'm saying, I think perhaps the analysis should be from that point of view of assessing who might have possessed the capability of eventually becoming a commercial farmer, and you put the ingredients around that person to support them. In our case, for instance, we did the whole shebang. We bought the farm, we providing the infrastructure. So all the components that allows a commercial farmer to exist, that is what we provided to the students. So what I'm saying is, at the moment, the concept of Sernick it's catering more for someone who has already started. But what I'm saying is, what I'm proposing is that perhaps the concept can evolve to look at the much younger people, but you commercialize them at that stage. So you take the very best that has the aptitude of becoming a commercial farmer, and you provide those factors of production as means of support to commercialize someone at that level. It's just a proposal. Thanks.
No, I agree. No, I have read you wrong. But you know, if we need to test their aptitude and stuff, we will still have to take them through the levels of our model, because that's the only way, through time and effort and watching them farming, to see whether they can go to commercialization. So I'm sorry, I've read your comment wrong there.
Thanks.
Yeah, if I can come in line, and I mean, there's two more questions. There's one from Tebogo, and then the last question from Lovemore. Okay, and then I think our time is up. But the point that is being made by Mzwandile here really is about, you know, there are people who have an interest in farming, but they might not have the necessary infrastructure and support mechanisms and all of those things to actually do that. And so what you're looking for is an incubator. We've had a project previously with Bushle, for example. It wasn't cattle, but you know, they had the land, and it was you know, it was short-term crops. They had the land, they provided the training, et cetera, et cetera. And so it gave people a foothold into the sector. And I think that really is what we're looking at as, you know, for cattle, perhaps, you know, how do we incubate new young people into the sector? What is it that we need to provide? I really think that is what is being asked for, and that is what we need to think through. And I guess it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge to the agriculture sector, both the private sector players as well as government department. You know, we talk about agriculture being a very useful sector in respect of job creation. Well, if we're saying that, then of course we need to think about what are the key barriers to people entering the sector, and how do we support that. But enough said from my side. I'm just going to, I think that, you know, people are going to want to, you know, close off now. So there's still Tebogo, who's been very patient, and then Lovemore.
And Lovemore. Tebogo, the mic is yours, sir.
Nora, thank you very much. Let me welcome the presentation, nicely structured, easy to understand. If you can share it with all of us who attended, we would appreciate that very much. My name is Tebogo. I'm actually a weekend farmer. I started in 2015 with 21 cows. Currently, I'm sitting at 140. The question is, how do I enter the system? You mentioned that people need to be full-time farmers. Like I indicated, I am a weekend farmer, and I've been patient for so many years. I'm not sure, is there a way or somebody I can speak to offline in terms of my own objectives in as far as farming is concerned, so that we don't derail the many people who are in the group? Thank you.
Where are you based in Free State?
I am working in Gauteng, Midrand. My cows are in Colini and Potchefstroom. So I work 7 days a week, in short.
And you have a lot of cows. Can I suggest that you phone Tebogo, my Tebogo, or even me? I think the first thing that you need to do is, if they are walking on commonages, you need to see if you can't apply for land from the government so that they can get onto their own land so that you can contain them.
Thanks, Petro. Yes, Petro's details, Michael's details, and Tebogo's details are in the chat. And anybody would like to, and they're very happy to take your call and to have a conversation about what you've heard, and also hear your thoughts. So the last person I said that is going to get a chance now, because we do have to close, it's 11:34 already, was Lovemore. Lovemore Zwane, you get to ask the last question. If anybody else has questions, I encourage you to put it in the chat. We definitely will answer you. Also, please take a moment to complete the evaluation, so that we can better understand, you know, how we make these sessions more relevant for you. So, Lovemore, go ahead.
These guys' numbers are not in the chat group.
The numbers are in the chat. If you just scroll up, you will see it. I typed it in there. I put Petro's number in. I put Tebogo's number in. I put Michael's number in.
Hello.
Hi, yes, please.
Greetings. My name is Godfrey Chwala. I'm representing Kokamoso Global Solutions, which is an accredited service provider.
Apologies. I've invited Lovemore to come in, and he's having the last word and the last say here. So Lovemore, please put your question, or yeah, you're on mute. Do you still, because your hand is very much up? Okay, there's much interest here. Many more hands have gone up, but I'm not sure, Michael and Petro and Tebogo, do you have time for a few more questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I'm
can
happy.
take.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay, let's just go there then.
Yes, Shiamo.
Yeah, Lovemore, if you're not going to be asking your question, you put your hand down, then it's Shiamo, as you say, Lionel, and Tabitha.
Mm.
Okay.
Shiamo, you are muted.
Good day.
Good day,
Hello,
sir.
yes, you can hear you. Please proceed.
Oh, thank you. Good day, everyone. I'm Tiamale Rafolo from Northwest in Dr. KK and Afasa Youth Chairperson.
Okay.
My question is that regarding on the 5 years contracts, how many hectares do you need to do those contracts if you have a farm in order to participate in those sponsors that you can help a farmer with? And then my other question is, as a young farmer in the Northwest in Dr. KK, I have once went for that short course and that 12 months course, and then after that they never replied to me or got back to me. So how can I go forward to other tiers, since I heard like the other tier 1, 2, 3 have different channels? So how do I move from tier 2 to tier 3 because of hours in one of those channels? That's all.
Thanks, Chamoli. Can I just clarify here? Were you a part of the Sernick program? Or is this some
Yes,
other
ma'am.
program that you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you not attending
Okay,
for
fine.
someone else?
Sorry?
Were you not attending other someone else farm?
No.
It was under your farm.
Yes, it was my grandfather's farm, so we were working together.
Okay, because there is a referral in KK who's in tier 3, but let's communicate. There's my number there on the chat box. On that, we'll communicate outside this so that you can find clarity in terms of who you are, because there's a farmer of us who's a referral that side who's part of our tier 3, but we'll talk that outside here. But in terms of the issue of land, it depends in terms of the carrying capacity. Remember, we can't have a specific amount of land because land differs based on where you are. For example, if you have to go to tier 3, for example, you need to be having the capability to can carry 100 plus. And when you are in Kronstadt, 100 plus needs 500 hectares. But if you are in Dr. Kenneth County as well, 100 plus needs 600 hectares. But if you go up Limpopo in Bochum, up north, you need roughly 13 to 14, 1,300 to 1,400 hectares to can carry, because the carrying capacity there is around 14. Same as in the Eastern Free State, the carrying capacity is around 3, 4, where you need 300 hectares and 400 hectares. So the amount of land that you require in terms of being on a specific tier depends on the carrying capacity on that particular area. So you need to know what is the carrying capacity of your area, or then, because me and you are going to discuss, we'll discuss further in terms of what is the carrying capacity on your area, then that will dictate how many animals you'll be able to carry in that farm. Then that will dictate in terms of on which tier do you fall under.
Thank you, Tebogo. I think we've covered everyone now. Just the two things to remind our attendees: the recording is available. The path has been given there on our chat. You can get that recording, and the other one is the contacts for our 3 presenters has also been made available there on the chats. If you have missed it, you can send us the message to our email address at Jobs Fund. You will see it in our last slide. And now it's over to the DDG, Najwa.
Thank you.
Ali
Thank you,
Adrian.
Lionel. Thank you so much, Lionel. And thank you to all the participants this morning. It's been a great session. I so enjoyed all the questions that were asked and the joint learning that we were all able to participate in. Key takeaways for me, of course, has really been about the importance of changing mindset, the importance of working together with communities, the importance of being patient and to give it time, the importance of partnership and the importance of measurement. And all of that takes us to the journey of sustainability. So Lionel, thank you to you for facilitating. Petro, Michael and Teboho, thank you so much for holding the space and answering the questions and for sharing the lessons. And to all our participants, thank you so much for the questions and the interest you have shown. Don't forget to complete the evaluation form. Have a good day further, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank